I understand that you've come up with a vision of making our local communities freedom pods. How does this work? This sounds
Yeah.
fascinating to me.
Well, again, the issue of fighting this on the local level, and when our founders created our country and our Constitution and so forth, they deliberately made it so that the local government would have the most influence on you, because that is the ones you could have the most influence on. The farther government gets away from you, the less influence you have on it. And when was the last time you got to sit down and have a cup of coffee with Donald Trump, or any other president? It doesn't happen that way. But you can do that with your city councilman or your mayor or whatever. And that was their idea. And the left knows this, and they have used it brilliantly. But what we're talking about here, and all this stuff, so many people trying to get into this fight, and Agenda 21, Green New Deal, encompasses every aspect of our lives, and people get discouraged, and they don't know how to fight. It is so vast. They start down one road, and it's then something else comes up, and then they start spinning in their heels. And how do they fight? And what level do they fight? And everybody wants to get involved in a presidential campaign or congressional race or whatever, and they totally ignore the local level. And so what we're advocating, we're getting ready. We've just completed a training manual. It's just about to come out, and we have we're going to start a series of webinars to teach people how to do these things. But what we're saying is, take your own community and turn it into a freedom pod. In other words, in your community, private property rights are protected. I have, after all these years that I've studied this, I have learned one thing major, that sustainable development policy cannot be implemented without destroying private property. If you focus on that, you can really cut back a lot of what they try to do. So in a freedom pod, private property is protected. Local business is encouraged and protected. What we have now are global corporations that are moving into every community, and they're killing local restaurants and little hardware stores and little mom and pop shops everywhere you turn. And what they do, these are public-private partnerships, and what they do with that is they get a chance by playing footsie with the government. They get first choice on where to put their buildings, a place where maybe a small guy isn't allowed to do. All of a sudden they can get that open. They get tax breaks and a whole slew of other things. And the government gets to hide behind their independence while these corporations are using their budgets, their advertising budgets, to spread their positions on things, these policies, and they can also use their partnership with government to put their competition out of business. Now take a look at what we're doing with the pandemic, where Walmart and Target and all these corporations are all open. It's okay to walk down their aisles and shop, but you can't go to Bill and Joe's little small shop over here. And it public-private partnership putting their competition out of business. This is how it operates. And so this is one of the things that we're advocating, to open it up so you can start a small business. It's almost impossible today to do it. The taxes, the rules, the regulations they put on it, it's almost impossible to do. So these things being protected in your community. And what you'll have to do to get that done, you're probably going to have to begin to really organize. Everybody wants a silver bullet. How do I fix it now? Our people go to a public meeting and they rally and they hold a sign and they say, we want this way. And then they go home. And I've had so many people tell me, well, it doesn't work. We tried. And I said, what did you do the next day? Well, nothing, because it doesn't work. They're sitting there looking at their watch saying, okay, they're gone. Now let's move forward. We have got to make them feel pain, feel responsible for their own actions, pay for it. And this means that we organize on the precinct level. We begin to organize to get people to turn out to elect good people. And that we've got lots and lots of tools we're putting together. If you can do this in just your community, the community next door is going to look and say, look what they did over there. And they'll probably contact you and say, how'd you do this? and you begin to help them, and then the next one, and then the next one. And we plant these pods until they move up to this county level, to the state legislature. That'll eventually lead to Congress, because what you're doing is you're creating good people in these elected offices, and the city councilman can move up to a state legislative position because he's done this. And we've got some, I have a state legislator in the state of Washington who has provided to me a package of 5 bills, all designed to cut all this stuff off at the knees, to protect private property rights, to protect your ability to have the freedom of choice in your life and so forth. We've got these 5 bills, and we've got, and of course, our people in the legislature are always in the minority. Well, we've got a plan on how we can use the that minority to network with the same kind of minority in the next state, and the next state, and the next state. What if we have these 5 bills? They're all designed to do this. And we've got 10 states, 3 or 4 legislators in each one. And they've created kind of a freedom caucus in each one. And on exactly the same day, in each legislature, they drop those bills in as a package. And at exactly the same time, in all 10 states, they hold a news conference to say, here's what we're doing. You will start a movement in doing that. And what if you pass 2 or 3 of them? You know, I was advised, don't put it all in one bill, put it in a series of bills so you can pass them, one at a time. These are the kind of things that we're working on to help people and create the freedom pods, to plant freedom and have it grow step by step.
This is really exciting. I love to hear that. I'm kind of reminded by the technique about the notice of liability process, where you're holding those responsible for harm individually accountable and liable. Doesn't it seem like we all, as inhabitants of this planet, are reluctant to take responsibility, even on a small level, for having allowed this condition to manifest? That from whether we're choosing ignorant or a blind eye, or we're just hoping it'll go away or get better, we've allowed this atmosphere to all of a sudden be here. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did we get here? Well, we kind of let it develop, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but
one of the things that I'm saying, and I've put in the manual, and my attitude on this is, the number one thing we have to do is stop being so polite.
Yep.
We are polite people, and we're respectful, and we talk to an elected official, and we'll say, well, okay, I guess. The other side, meanwhile, are throwing stones at them and beating them up, and they're scared to death of them. And they've got it. And of course, they're also slipping the money to them, which we don't have. That's a big thing. But this is why I say we have to make them personally responsible for these things. If a certain councilman, I go look at every single council or county commission, there's going to be one guy who's really pushing a lot of these things. Sometimes there's 2. But there's some of the power mongers. They are stuffing their pockets. They are getting political power. And, they're just having a wonderful time pushing all this stuff. And I say, make them own it. In Durango, they're in Colorado, I was meeting with some folks, and they were telling me a city councilwoman there had Durango's, a lot of its income, a major part of its income is coming from the oil industry. And I can't tell you exactly what this lady did, but the city councilman passed got some kind of legislation passed that hurt the oil industry. And they showed me this bar chart that showed here's what the income was for the community, and now it's clear down here. And the first thing I said to them was, put her picture on it. It's her chart. Exactly. We have got to make them responsible for what they're doing. The other thing, what you're talking about, the legal action, one of the things we have in the manual, in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, there is a section in there called 1983, Section 1983. And what it says is, any official that has taken the oath of office and sworn allegiance to serve and protect the Constitution of the United States, if they have done something to pass legislation or a regulation, whatever it is may be, that has violated your civil rights. It could be the taking of property. It could be a whole slew of things. It might be mandatory vaccines, anything like that. And you can pull a case together and prove that they have done this to you. They will be held personally responsible for their actions. They will pay fines. They will pay their own legal bills. Right now, you can sue the city over something and you might win, but they don't pay. There's no responsibility to them whatsoever. Taxpayers pay the fines and the legal fees and all that. This would make them pay it. And this is something that when I heard it, I jumped on it immediately. And there are a couple of 3 different ways to get this done. And we've got some things in the manual on how to do that. And I believe that we would only have to file 2 or 3 cases of this and win. And then we could go into them and say, you're next. And this is what we've accomplished so far, and you're next. And I can't wait to do that someday.
Oh my goodness. I bet you can't. How exciting that will be. And that day will come. I know it. I know it. You're on the right track. I just feel it. So, with part of my educating myself on this agenda, madness, etc., learning all the dots that connect it, I came upon about the Wildlands Project years ago, mostly from presentations by the late Michael Kaufman, Dr. Michael Kaufman. He drew the map that stopped the with the signing of the Global Biodiversity Treaty. And I understand that this initiative that will make over 50% of the land in the U.S. into a wildlife preserve and serve as the heart and soul of the Global Biodiversity Assessment Operation. And to those new to the hearing about this plan, it seems like a scene of a sci-fi film. And, I think I even got a lot of this from your own material. Your articles was really excellent, but it's so related, is it not, that to their plan to get us out of our homes, get us out of our cars so they can control us, get more bike paths going. And, they protect the animals. And I'm an animal lover. I'm a nature lover. I'm all for that, to an extent. But essentially they put a big fence around 50% of the U.S. and how the map is just like all these different regions. It's interesting, but they're keeping the humans out of the nature and the animals, and I thought, wow, that's something, huh? And that's connected,
You know
right?
what this is? You know what this is?
Wild Earth.
This is the original plan for the Wildlands Project.
Really?
This is the original document that they put out.
Oh
and
my!
This is put Earth First, one of the most radical environmental groups.
Everything's earth and green and sustainable. Yep.
Yeah, and the head of of Earth First is a madman named Dave Foreman, and I think he's now working with the Sierra Club. Let me share 2 quotes with you from Dave Foreman. He said, first of all, our vision is simple. We live for the day when grizzlies in Chihuahua have an unbroken connection to grizzlies in Alaska, where gray wolf populations are continuous from New Mexico to Greenland. That's 1. 2, my 3 main goals would be to reduce human populations to about 100 million worldwide, destroy the industrial infrastructure, and see wilderness with its full complement of species returning throughout the world. That is the Wildlands Project. The Wildlands Project, when it was introduced, eventually made its way into being the Biodiversity Treaty. That's what Michael Kaufman and Henry Lamb and the group went after to stop it. It was about to be ratified by the U.S. Senate. And Michael was able to get some information that he wasn't supposed to have. And he is the one who created that map that shows the Earth, or shows the United States with all the red in it, which means no human activity whatsoever, and just little areas of human activity allowed, with buffer zones around it. The point of, you take the buffer zone, it's like a cancer cell. You're allowed to have some human activity there, but slowly you choke it out, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger to where it all becomes red and and there's nothing there. They were able to get that on the floor of the Senate an hour or so before the vote was to be taken. And the senators looked at this and said, oh my, and they didn't vote it down, they tabled it. It is still tabled to this day.
Really?
Since I think it was 1987, I think they did this. And, but that's what happened. And what I just read, those quotes, that is what that is all about. And, total control of the economy.
Absolutely. And we'll be including that graphic to that map with this video. So folks will be able to get more of a visual, but it's shocking. And I think Michael added later, if I understand, to the map, the little black squares that are the human settlement zones. That's where we will be kept in stack and pack in the high diversity areas, and where they control everything, our food, our temperature, everything. So.
Yeah. I told him one day, I said, you ought to make one of those maps for every single congressional district, and they could see they won't have one anymore. Never got around to doing it, but that would be effective.
Excellent idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my.
When you see a map of a true sustainable city, according to them, in Oregon and so forth, around places, we have these urban growth boundaries. Portland, Oregon was a poster child for all of this. And they put this line all the way around the city, and they say no growth will take place outside of that line. And and what they say is, as they put that up there, then we'll have this little strip of land around it, and every community will grow all of the food that it needs, all the things. There'll be no truck shipping anything in. Everything will be created that you need right there in that community. So that's one of the things they talk about. Well, Portland, Oregon, being the poster child of all this, just recently, I know you want to ask me about the single-family zoning and so forth, the attacks on this. Oregon is the first state that has passed legislation to ban single-family zoning. And the governor of Oregon said, we have a housing crisis in Oregon. We have to do this. And the reason they have a housing crisis is because of these urban growth boundaries. Portland, Oregon, 20-some years ago, they put this around there. In that period of time, the population has grown by 80%. And yet they have not increased the urban growth boundary by more than 2 or 3%. And so here they don't have a housing crisis. They have a government crisis telling them, you can only do this, you can only do that. And so here they are, falling apart. And we have seen now that this attack on single-family home zoning is growing across the country. Now, let me just back up and say, private property rights, private property ownership is the reason why the United States became so wealthy, so fast, and so free over ancient cultures, Rome and France and England and so forth, these ancient, long-standing cultures, and we passed them up so rapidly because we had private property. People gaining equity in their private property is the way that individuals, without a whole lot of connections to other things, can build their own personal wealth. And 60% of the businesses in this country were started by property owners using the equity in their property to finance it. And that's how you got mom and pop shops started and so forth, the equity in that. And now they have attacked single-family homes for these stack and pack, smart growth, high-rise buildings and so forth, designed to cut off our transportation choices, designed to have you walking or riding a bicycle to the grocery or to your job, on and on and on. And this has really begun in earnest by taking away the zoning protections of single-family homes. And this is the attack that they're using. Well, Oregon was the first to pass it. The mayor of Minneapolis said that people living in single-family home zoning areas are self-segregating themselves from people they don't want to live next to. That is racist. Chicago is the same thing. and Baltimore, Maryland. The NAACP filed a lawsuit against the fact that they were putting all the Section 8 low-income housing in one area. They said that creates ghettos. Well, duh. You know, and who couldn't have told you that? You put everything in one place. So what they did was file a lawsuit against the city that to go into single-family home neighborhoods and begin to put Section 8 housing into those neighborhoods so that they could be closer to jobs, closer to schools, closer to transportation, and so forth. And you know and they won the suit. They also, in the suit, won a provision that says landlords cannot ask a potential renter if they can afford the rent. That is racist. Now, here's where this is heading. When they have taken away all of the single-family homes, first of all, they'll look at that backyard that we thought the kids could play in. We could put 100 families in that area. We're going to take that house down. We're going to do this, you know. And so this is how they look at it. Well, now they go after the landlords. The landlords have been attacked with high taxes and all kinds of building regulations and so forth that raise all their costs. And so they raise their rents. One of the things in this suit was to go after the landlords with rent controls, because that's racist to charge so much. That's not fair. Well, what's the result of that is going to be that landlords go out of business. So we get rid of single-family homes. We get rid of apartments. What's left? Government housing, period. That all housing will be government housing. And that's where this is headed.
Yep.
And that's the Green New Deal.
Yes, absolutely. And I understand that, like, even with the, like you said, with the racist and everything, and it devalues our property, and we all reach kind of the same level of poverty. One of their goals, and even getting out into the wilderness, there might be all these fires that just come up, and then, you know, the people have to evacuate and they have to get off the land. It's devalued. It's sold off to Chinese investors usually. And then they stop supporting the construction of the rural roads, so emergency equipment can't get down there to tend to emergencies for the homes. And yeah, they have all these ways to get us off our land and into these little pockets. So, oh my.
Get this. This is the Joe Biden campaign's plan for investing in our communities through housing. Let me just share this with you. He says here, communities of color are disproportionately impacted by the failures in our housing markets, with home ownership rates for Black and Latino individuals falling far below the rate for white individuals. Now get this, right after what I just said, because home ownership is how many families save and build wealth. These racial disparities in home ownership contribute to the racial wealth gap. Yes, they do. But his idea is to put us all in the same kind of building that has caused that in the first place. Right. So none of us, instead of, you know how the old saying is that under socialism, we're all equal, all equally poor. There it is, right there in writing. And he goes on here and he talks about, the Biden principles for housing. And he talks about affordable, stable, and healthy, accessible, on and on and on. Get this, for stable housing. And see if this doesn't sound what I just said about Baltimore. Providing families with the consistency they need to maintain jobs, perform well in school, and develop social networks necessary for well-being. What is that?
Oh,
a
my
network necessary for well-being. I thought it was a free.
They have quite the
private.
Yes.
Yeah. And then he goes on here and he says, located near good schools with a reasonable commute to their jobs. You know, what we're talking about here, putting all this stuff together in one place, is the stack and pack. So Portland all over again, that everybody is living in these high rises and there is no backyard. Half the time you go through your life and never touch the ground. And if you're going to go out, you're going to walk, you're going to ride a bike, or you're going to go in public transportation. No cars. That is a major thing. And, it's all for protecting the environment, you understand. That's the excuse for it all. But this is where it's all headed. There is no individuality. There is no, one of the things we're not hearing anymore is about people having goals and dreams for their own life, where they want to go, what they want to do with their life. Now it's all herd mentality, where all one size fits all, and we're all going to go in the same direction.
Yep.
And that is sustainable development. That is Agenda 21.
Yes. Amazing. And we're being dumbed down many different ways, geoengineering, GMOs, etc. So we might not realize just what all really is happening to us. So we can be little controlled groups, and that can go into so many different areas. But I think you've done a really wonderful job of covering these topics, Tom. Thank you so much for that. And do you feel like we've pretty much come to a wrapping up place here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could talk for the next 6 hours and still hardly touch
I'd be more than happy to any chance.
All the individual policies and so forth that are there. But this is a good overview of where this is coming from and why and so forth. I will say on our website at americanpolicy.org, we've got all kinds of information. I've got a huge archive of articles we've written over the years on all these different subjects, so you can research all that. And a few years ago, I started getting people saying to me, okay, I get it. What do I do about it? And that's when we began to say, we've got to supply people with tools on how to fight back. And so that's what we've been doing for the last few years. And we've got a manual on there. We've got a little booklet you can download for nothing it's Agenda 21 and how to stop it. And we just updated it. It now has a new deal in it. And, of course, my books, as you talked about. My latest book is Sustainable, The War on Free Enterprise, Private Property, and Individuals. And it has become a bestseller on Amazon in its category. And it's starting to get out there. And so, we're getting that information.
Well, thank you for that. And we'll be providing a link to your website, and it is jam-packed with archives of articles, and also that you'll be, people can join your American Policy Center, your initiative there to be notified when this is all going to be, where we can sign up to get going and creating our freedom pods in our communities and getting going with that and helping to support your initiative. That is really vital to help you keep going, doing the wonderful work you're doing. So we're so grateful for that, Tom. You're just you're a wonderful hero for so many, and thank you for that and being one of the good guys to bring this about. And it's been a true pleasure. And feel free to send me more links you'd like me to include in the comments below, in addition to your website link, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Okay, bye for now.